Start first of all talking about your journey into customized learning. When were you first aware of what customized learning was and that you were going to be a part of it? And how did you become part of this movement?
It was probably a little over a year ago when we were introduced to it. We read B. McGarvey's book, Inevitable, and then we had some book discussions on it, and we just did some research into it. We were put together into teams, so to speak, as far as implementers of mass customized learning, and we just started doing some research. We did some classes to help us to get into the mode of mass customized learning and find out what it is, what it isn't, and then we just went from there and took what we thought was mass customized learning and we put it into practice in our classrooms. So it's been probably a little over a year and a half ago that we started into this journey.
How did the team of teachers going into it support one another?
Well, the middle school team, we're pretty supportive of each other to start off with. We have a good working relationship, so that definitely helped. Without the support of each other, I don't know that it would have worked as well as it has been, because there are ups and downs in the journey and figuring out what works and what doesn't, and to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, it's truly important to have that support system of the staff members.
You talked about learning what it isn't. Was there anything that you had a misperception about that going in that you found was not accurate?
We really didn't know what we were getting into, to tell you the truth. We kept asking, what is it? What's it look like? And nobody could really tell us. So going into it, we were kind of like the blind leading the blind. And again, where we had our support staff support with each other in our staff, that's where we bounced ideas back and forth, and I'm doing this in my classroom, what are you doing, and that type of thing. Because we really didn't know what it was and what it wasn't. Because you have definitions and you can have different examples and things, but until you get into the actual teaching and the trenches of it, it's hard to know what it is and what it isn't.
If you met a similar group of teachers now who are just trying to get into it and they have that question, how's the best, I mean, you say you can't really know until you get into it, but what would be the best definition you give them early on of what it is?
Oh boy, I don't know what I would tell them. I guess you just have to go with it. It's really nothing that different than what you're doing. It's just you're doing the same things, but you're giving kids opportunities to work at their pace. Edit that one out.
Speaking of misperceptions, we're asking all teachers this. We know there are people who said, well, in customized schools, teachers aren't teaching anymore, meaning they're not staying in front of the room as much, lecturing to 30 students. How would you reply to that?
I would say definitely not. When I have my seminars with my students, right now I guess I just came from my classroom and we were teaching or talking about action and linking verbs, and it was a full group discussion. Now, does that happen every day? No, not necessarily. Only in the instance where it's a topic that needs to be covered. Sometimes it's with my full group. Sometimes I'll just take a small group of students and discuss something with them while the other students are working on something different or on their own. So teachers are definitely teaching. Matter of fact, I've started something different this quarter with my conventions or my grammar. I did a pretest for my kids on the 4 different conventions that were covered in this unit of my textbook. And through the pretest, if they could show mastery of that particular topic, they didn't have to do the work that was associated with it. However, if you didn't show mastery, then I have a few tasks that I have listed on Schoology where they watch a video and they have to write tutorial notes. Then they have options where they can do work in the textbook, they can do a worksheet, they can do a workbook page. And they kind of pick and choose however much they want to do. And through that then, when they're all done, They self-correct their work, and then they bring it to me, and then we discuss. And I ask them verbal questions before I let them have an assessment. And if they don't know the answers to those verbal questions, then obviously they haven't mastered that yet. So I say, nope, you need to go back, and maybe you didn't do a workbook page. Well, let's try that. Let's work on that and see if we can gain a better mastery of it. I feel that by doing it this way, I know exactly what my kids know and what they don't. You can just tell on their faces when I asked a particular question today, define a linking verb, and they're like, oh gosh, okay, then you haven't mastered that yet. Go back and research it, do some more work, and then come back when you feel you are ready. And then I can tie in my seminars, like that's what I was doing today, just tying in a small seminar over that topic. And the group that I had today, I required everyone to take part in that seminar. But in other classes throughout today, I've said, if you need this seminar, then you listen, and this is the page I'm on in the textbook. If you've mastered this convention, or if you don't need my instruction, then you find something that you can work on, maybe some other conventions, or you might have some questions from our story that we just read, something else that they could work on their own.
Are there other ways you've gotten to know students better than you think you would have in the old system?
Well, I guess you kind of learn to know who works well with each other, who doesn't. In my textbook, I guess we do a story together, full group, and then I give the kids options. There are 3 more stories that they can pick from. So at times I have 3 different groups going on at the same time in my room. Well, obviously I can't be in all 3 groups at the same time, so you can kind of pick and choose, and you find out who's a good leader, who can you depend on to maybe lead the discussion, where I'm in another group, you facilitate this discussion. And it's kind of fun to put kids on the spot sometimes, because they know that they have to know their stuff, because I might just say, you're leading the discussion today. And if they don't know their stuff, it's not a desirable place for them to be.
You mentioned Schoology. Can you tell us how you work with that on, say, a weekly basis? How much time that takes and what you do?
Schoology was a program that we just started this year when we implemented our mass customized learning. It's a place where all assignments are posted. I can put announcements to my kids if I need them to know something. It's like they left my room and, oh, I forgot to tell them this. I can put an announcement on there, and they will eventually see that. They get a notification that Mrs. Conold put something on there and they need to check it out. Schoology is a place where you create links or create a page and you list your tasks or your assignments on there, and everyone knows that that's where it is. This works really well with kids that are absent. They can't come back and say, well, what did we do? I was gone. No, you have access to Schoology 100% of the time, so it's your responsibility now to check there to see what assignments were posted, or if there were announcements given or something that I wanted you to know. It's no longer, I didn't know what to do. Now it's you check Schoology when you're at home, because they can get to it wherever they have an internet connection.
Do you believe that your students' parents understand what this is in general? Have you had any feedback from parents at all?
Some do and some don't. We had a parent meeting right at the beginning of our school year in which we invited the parents to come in for a night, and we did some definitions. We talked about what mass customized learning might look like. I think probably the biggest misconception is that parents don't understand that in my classroom, mass customized learning is not going to look the same as the social studies or the science or the math classroom. First of all, we're all individuals and we have our own teaching styles. And secondly, our subject area doesn't always lend us to be able to do things the same way. So there's sometimes a misconception in that. The parents that want to know what their kids are doing. They can log into Schoology. We gave them all parent logins, and so they can be even more involved in their students' work and how they're doing and what are they missing, what are they not getting done, their grades, their scores. So they have access to more information now, I feel, than what they did before.
Lenny, do you have some questions?
You know, it seems like when I was here before, you were struggling with the new language arts curriculum and customized learning and trying to bring the two together. How's that coming along? I mean, have you found ways to take this new curriculum and make it work in a customized environment?
That was a big scare for me. Okay, we're going into mass customized learning. We have a new program called Kairos, and that's our scheduling program. We have a new program called Schoology, and I got new curriculum too. I didn't really know what to think. I didn't know what was going to happen. For the first month of school, I tried to use my online components with my curriculum, and they're all wonderful components, but there was an online writer's notebook, and there was an online close reading tool, and the kids were trying to use it, and they didn't really know where they were supposed to go. The work wasn't saving the way we thought it should, and so after the first month, I kept telling the kids, we're all in this together. I said, this is new for me, and it's new for them, so I tried to give them the feeling that if we were in it together, we were either going to sink or swim together. And I said, don't get too upset about things, just communicate and we'll work through it. Well, after the first month or so of school, I'd had enough of it, where I just said, you know what, we're using paper and pencil now. We're not using the online components so much, because I felt like I needed to get into my content more than let's use this technology, this tool and that tool, and hopefully someday I can get into that again and learn how to use them better. But right now, with all of the new programs and new techniques and new things that were being implemented, that just was overwhelming. It was too much for me and the kids.
What are some areas of success that you've seen with students that maybe you wouldn't have seen in a traditional setting?
I guess I'm going to refer back to my conventions and my grammar that I was referring to before. The kids, I just feel like I have a better relationship with each of them as far as their knowledge base, what they know, what they don't know, and to me that's successful. I feel like I have a better understanding of, maybe I need to explain something a little bit better if there are several of them that aren't getting a concept, or if a whole bunch of them know a concept, maybe I can skip over that. I just feel like I know my kids better in what they know and what they don't know, and that guides me as to what I need to put into my instruction.
Do you use some tools for assessing kids where they're at, or how do you kind of gauge where kids are and what they know and what they can do?
I used a pretest for my conventions. I hate to keep referring to that, but it's an exciting component for me right now. And during our learning labs, I've got kids coming and they've got their notes they want to show me. I look through their work with them, discuss things with them, give them some verbal questions. Some of them are really not too thrilled with the verbal questions, but they know that they have to show mastery of that, or they can't move on.
Do you find there are certain students that excel in a customized environment, and are there students who don't do well in a customized environment?
We have those students that are high flyers, and no matter what environment you put them in, they're going to be successful. We also have those students that struggle, and no matter what environment you put them in, there's going to be a struggle. So I don't know if it's so much the environment, the mass customized learning, or a regular classroom. You're going to have those that don't fit the mold. We're all individuals. We all learn differently. So for some it's good, and for some they probably don't care for it as much. But that's what makes our job interesting, is to try to get everybody on pace and involved.
Well, we wanted to give you an opportunity to say one last thought that maybe we haven't asked you, haven't addressed. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't like being videotaped.
Fair enough.
Otherwise, I guess going into mass customized learning, last summer I was freaking out. I didn't know what to expect. Nobody could tell us what was going to happen. But now into the third quarter of our school year, it's hectic, trying to keep ahead of the kids, trying to keep everything going, but it's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be. And again, support from staff members and administration is huge. Communication, support, we're all in it together, and that it makes me feel better to know that I'm not the Lone Ranger out here trying to do this on my own. We're all showing our successes and we're all sharing some of our disappointments or things that don't go so well, but we're all there for each other.